So, no one told you life was going to be this way. Your job's a joke, you're broke, your love life's DOA. And somehow that opening lyric still lives rent-free in your head 30 years later, which, come to think of it, is exactly how Monica paid for her apartment. Welcome to Friends. The show that premiered on NBC in 1994 took six nobodies, put them on an orange couch in a Greenwich Village coffee shop they couldn't afford, and became the most profitable sitcom ever made. Not by being edgy, not by being dark, but by being exactly the kind of show you'd want your life to feel like for 22 minutes a week. Ross and Rachel, Chandler's sarcasm, Joey's sandwiches, Phoebe's songs, Monica's cooking, and a couch that was always inexplicably free no matter how crowded Central Perk got. Before we get into it, if you're enjoying these deep dives into the shows that defined a generation, hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps. And we've got a lot more coming. Today we're cracking open 15 weird facts about a show that had no right to be this good, and somehow became impossible to stop watching. Facts about the couple the writers never planned. The actress almost replaced while the show was already airing. The man showing up to set every week not sure he'd survive the decade. And the seventh character, NBC demanded, a cop named Pat, who got written, cast, and then disappeared before a single frame ever rolled. Hit that like button and subscribe before we dive in. It genuinely helps the channel. Let's get into it with number 15. Number 15, the apartment problem they fixed retroactively. Let's start with the thing every New Yorker spent 10 years screaming at their television. Monica's apartment, a sprawling two-bedroom in Greenwich Village. Purple walls, a full kitchen, a balcony, enough square footage that six people could argue without elbowing each other. In 1994, a place like that ran $3,000 to $5,000 a month. A 2023 analysis put today's equivalent at $6,500. A real estate broker told Architectural Digest in 2024 it could command $8,000 to $10,000 depending on condition. Monica was a chef. Rachel was a waitress. Their combined take-home in season 1 was roughly $8,700 a month before taxes, meaning rent alone, at any realistic number, would have eaten 75% of everything they made, before food, utilities, or whatever Phoebe charged for a massage. The writers knew they had a problem. Their answer arrived in season 4. Monica had been illegally subletting her grandmother's rent-controlled apartment all along. The grandmother was the original tenant. When she relocated to Florida, Monica moved in and kept paying the stabilized rate, around $200 a month. Chandler, emptying the apartment in the series finale, delivers the show's most honest line. Thanks to rent control, it was a friggin' steal. The apartment had to be that size because the show filmed in front of a live studio audience. Fit six people into a realistic New York studio, and you can't shoot a scene without someone's elbow in the frame. So, the writers built a fantasy, shot 10 seasons inside it, and quietly stitched in the legal excuse 4 years later. Nobody argued. Number 14, the couch nobody paid for. The orange Central Perk sofa, the one that held Ross through every romantic catastrophe of his adult life, cost Warner Brothers exactly nothing. Set decorator Greg Grande was digging through a storage basement on the Warner Brothers lot in Burbank when he found it, shoved in a corner, buried under other furniture. A sofa with carved wooden legs and deep orange upholstery, tattered, arms fraying, visible rip in the back cushion. Grande knew immediately it was the one. NBC did not share his enthusiasm. Notes came back flagging the rip, questioning whether a battered piece of salvaged furniture belonged at the center of a show they were investing serious money in. Grande's solution: cover the rip with a tapestry throw, touch up the fringe, get it on set before anyone looked too closely. He also slid a piece of plywood under the cushions so the cast wouldn't sink on camera. When the show became a hit and the couch needed to survive 8 more seasons, Grande tracked down matching fabric in Europe and had the whole thing reupholstered. It outlasted every network note. It now sits on the Warner Brothers studio tour, free, almost rejected, kept together for a decade by a tapestry and a plank of wood. And if you've ever wondered why the gang always managed to find it empty in a busy coffee shop, eagle-eyed fans have spotted a reserved sign sitting on the coffee table in front of it throughout the series. The couch was held for them the whole time. It was right there in the background. Number 13, Smelly Cat was originally about a dog. Here's one that quietly changes how you hear that song. Smelly Cat was not about a cat. It was about a dog. A real dog named Gouda, owned by Friends writer Betsy Borns. Gouda had a serious odor problem. Borns, who regularly pulled from her own life for material, wrote the first version as an ode to her malodorous childhood pet. The title came from writer Adam Chase, just a funny name for a Phoebe song, the kind of deliberately bad joke that only Phoebe would deliver with complete sincerity. The lyrics came together between Borns, Chase, Lisa Kudrow, and Chrissy Hynde of The Pretenders. Hynde guest starred in the Season 2 episode The One with the Baby on the Bus as Stephanie Schiffer, a professional singer hired by Central Perk's manager, Terry, to replace Phoebe. Kudrow composed the melody herself, as she did for all of Phoebe's songs. The switch from dog to cat happened because Borns decided a cat was funnier, one harder syllable, more absurd. She was right. So what you're actually hearing every time someone hums that song is an ode to a real smelly dog named Gouda, recast as a cat, co-written by the lead singer of The Pretenders, performed by a character who could barely play guitar in a coffee shop that fired her. The song outlived the dog, the episode, and probably the guitar. Number 12. The 4 hand claps that were a mistake. Clap, 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 clap. You already heard them in your head, right at the top of I'll Be There For You, before the guitar kicks in. 4 beats so recognizable that live studio audiences clap them back in perfect unison every time without being asked. They were a mistake. Composer Michael Skloff had finished the demo. The version editors cut the pilot footage to have a drum fill in that spot, a standard percussive transition. When Skloff went to add it to the Rembrandt's final recording, the drum fill was gone. The session was nearly done. The show needed the track by Thursday. So Skloff and a recording engineer stood around a microphone and clapped 4 times. Placeholder became the song. The Rembrandts were later offered the chance to replace the claps with a proper drum fill. They listened to both versions. They kept the claps. And here's the other layer. The Rembrandts weren't even the first choice. The pilot episode of Friends used REM's Shiny Happy People as its placeholder theme. REM declined to license it. Warner Brothers turned to the only band on their roster who fit the sound. The Rembrandts, who didn't want to record a TV theme, had to be persuaded into it and didn't even want the song on their album. That reluctant song, with its accidental hand claps, spent 8 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Airplay chart. Some mistakes work out. Number 11. NBC wanted a 7th friend named Pat the Cop. Before Friends aired, NBC had one note after reviewing the pilot. The cast was too young. 6 people in their 20s figuring out their feelings in a coffee shop. The network worried older viewers wouldn't tune in. Their fix. Add a 7th character, an older authority figure, someone to dispense wisdom and broaden the demographic. They called him Pat the Cop. Kaufman and Crane hated it. They weren't in a position to simply say no, so they did the only thing available to them. They wrote him in. They even cast the role. Then they read the script back, hated it more, and went back to NBC with a counteroffer, kill Pat the Cop, and the show would give all 6 leads parents, recurring supporting roles that would pull older viewers in without disrupting the core group. According to author Saul Austerlitz in his book Generation Friends, the writers hated the resulting script so much that they pleaded with NBC to drop the idea. NBC agreed. Pat the Cop disappeared. Elliot Gould arrived as Jack Geller, Christina Pickles as Judy Geller. The parents showed up across the series exactly as promised. Somewhere, there's a casting record for a cop who almost became the 7th friend. And if you're wondering what Pat the Cop would have looked like in that show, Marta Kaufman once summed up the experience by invoking the children's book. "You know Pat the Bunny," she said. "We had Pat the Cop." Number 10. The show had 4 names before it had 1. Insomnia Cafe, Friends Like Us, 6 of 1, Across the Hall, Friends. 4 titles before the first episode aired on September 22nd, 1994. Each one abandoned for a different reason. Insomnia Cafe was the original, built right around the coffee shop setting. When NBC bought the pilot, it became Friends Like Us, until an ABC show called These Friends of Mine made that too close for comfort. 6 of 1 was next, the working title when production started. Then NBC President Warren Littlefield pushed for Across the Hall. Nobody liked it. They landed on Friends, one word, no elaboration, almost by process of elimination. But the title wasn't even the sharpest fight. Simultaneously, NBC was pushing to move the show out of the coffee shop entirely. Their reasoning? Seinfeld had built its identity around Monk's Cafe, and they wanted the same diner anchor formula for this show. Kaufman and Crane refused. They held Central Perk, which means every episode shot in that coffee shop, the orange couch, Phoebe's guitar corner, Gunther managing the place and quietly losing his mind over Rachel, exists because two people said no. The title was almost anything. The setting was almost a diner. The show that made it to air was the one the creators defended. Number 9, Jennifer Aniston was almost replaced mid-season. Jennifer Aniston has talked about this one publicly, and it is genuinely weirder than you think. When Friends went into production in 1994, Aniston wasn't free to do it. She was still under contract to a CBS sitcom called Muddling Through, a summer show that had scraped together enough ratings to survive and been picked up for a potential second season. CBS owned her contract. If Muddling Through had been renewed in any meaningful way, the network could have pulled Aniston off Friends while the show was already on television. There was a period where I had to stand out of the photographs for the group shots, Aniston said later, and I had phone calls from girlfriends saying, "I'm auditioning for your part in Friends." The show was airing. Audiences were watching Rachel Green, and the actress playing her was legally replaceable mid-season. What made it stranger? NBC was reportedly scheduling TV movies in Muddling Through's time slot, specifically to tank its ratings. One network actively working against a competing network's show to protect its own investment. Muddling Through's final episode aired 2 weeks before Friends premiered. Threat gone. Aniston stayed. But for a stretch in fall 1994, while America was meeting Rachel Green for the first time, other women were auditioning for the part. Only one CBS cancellation stood between the show you know and a Friends with a different Rachel. Number 8. The Couple, a studio audience invented in 27 seconds. Monica and Chandler were never supposed to last more than one episode. The season 4 finale, London, Ross's wedding to Emily. Monica and Chandler sleep together. One night, meant to play as a funny mistake, then fade. The plan, per co-creator David Crane, was to have some fun with the awkwardness afterward and move on. The show taped the reveal in front of 3 separate live audiences. Each time, the reaction to Monica and Chandler in bed together was so overwhelming, the editors had to cut it down for broadcast. Crane described it at the 2021 reunion. What you hear on the actual show is maybe a third of what really happened in that room. The ovation ran 27 seconds, 3 times. "We realize there's more to this," co-creator Marta Kaufman said, "and we need to pay attention." The writers spent the summer rethinking. A one-night joke became 6 seasons of television. Chandler proposed on the kitchen floor. They moved to a house in Westchester. They adopted twins, Jack, named after Monica's father, and Erica, named after their birth mother. All of it because an audience in London refused to let a throwaway scene go. Quick one, which friend are you? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to see. And if you're enjoying this, hit like and subscribe. A lot more of this coming. Back to number 7. Number 7, the real crush behind the on-screen one. For 10 seasons, Ross and Rachel were the emotional engine of the show. The will they, won't they, the break, the airport, the finale. All of it rested on whether those two people would find their way back to each other. The chemistry felt real because, at least at the beginning, it partly was. At the 2021 reunion special on HBO Max, David Schwimmer and Jennifer Aniston confirmed what had apparently been an open secret on set for years. In the first season, they genuinely had feelings for each other. "In the first season, I had a major crush on Jen," Schwimmer said. "At some point we were both crushing hard on each other, but it was like 2 ships passing. One of us was always in a relationship. We never crossed that boundary." Aniston confirmed it, then added the detail that makes it strange. "I remember saying to David, it's going to be such a bummer if the first time you and I actually kiss is on national television." Their first kiss was on screen, in Central Perk, in front of 22 million people. "We channeled all of our adoration and love for each other into Ross and Rachel," Aniston said. When the moderator asked Perry and Courtney Cox if they'd known at the time, both said yes, immediately. Schwimmer added, during rehearsal breaks, he and Aniston used to curl up together on the couch. I'm thinking, how did everyone not know we were crushing on each other? 27 years of silence on that one. Number 6. The physics paper that got Julia Roberts. Matthew Perry had a crush on Julia Roberts. In the mid-1990s, Julia Roberts was the biggest movie star on Earth. Perry handled this the way Chandler Bing would. He asked her to be on the show, Roberts wrote back. One condition, he had to write her a paper on quantum physics. Executive producer Kevin Bright told The Hollywood Reporter the full story. Matthew asked her to be on the show. She wrote back to him, "Write me a paper on quantum physics and I'll do it." My understanding is that Matthew went away and wrote the paper and faxed it to her the next day. He faxed it. This was 1995. Roberts did the episode. She and Perry dated briefly afterward. The episode, the one after the Super Bowl, aired January 28, 1996, immediately after Super Bowl 30. It drew 52.9 million viewers. That's still the highest-rated post-Super Bowl broadcast in television history and the most-watched episode Friends ever produced, ahead of the 52.5 million who watched the series finale 8 years later. The episode had Roberts, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Brooke Shields, and Chris Isaac. NBC held more than half the Super Bowl audience. One quantum physics paper. Sent by fax, still the record. Number 5. The haircut its creator hated. Through the mid to late 1990s, women walked into salons and said this while pointing at a photo of Jennifer Aniston. Stylists knew the request before the sentence finished. 30 years later, people are still asking for it. Jennifer Aniston called it the bane of her existence. The cut was created by her stylist Chris McMillan and debuted at the end of season 1. Layered, face-framing, instantly iconic. Global phenomenon. Aniston was not a fan. "I was not a fan of the Rachel," she told Glamour in 2015. "That was kinda cringy for me." At the 2018 InStyle Awards, she was more specific. "You leave, you feel beautiful, you feel sexy, you feel alive, and then you feel screwed, because no one has the ability to actually do what Chris did to this haircut." She couldn't replicate it herself. Without McMillan's round brush technique, she ended up with what she described as a Greek frizzy mop. McMillan confirmed it in The Telegraph. High maintenance, not a wash and go, constant trims required. The most copied haircut of a decade, worn by the woman who created it, who couldn't recreate it at home, and called her own stylist the bane of her existence for inventing it. Salons are still fielding the request. Aniston wanted nothing to do with it. Number 4. David Schwimmer walked away from $30 million. After season 1, 2 cast members, Schwimmer and Aniston, were generating more buzz than the other 4. During season 2, their salaries reflected that, with the 2 earning more than their co-stars. Schwimmer had leverage heading into the season 3 negotiations. Real leverage. He called the cast together instead. His proposal, according to Matthew Perry's memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, they negotiate as a unit going forward, all 6. Equal pay across the board. The lowest number on the table sets the floor for everyone. Nobody makes more than anyone else. "I would like to think that I would have made the same move," Perry wrote. "But as a greedy 25-year-old, I'm not sure I would have." Warner Brothers wanted individual negotiations. They got a wall. The cast held it for every contract through the end of the series. Season 3, $75,000 per episode each. Season 5, $100,000. Season 7 and 8, $750,000. Season 9 and 10, $1 million each, the first television ensemble to reach that number. Perry calculated the gap between what Schwimmer could have taken and what he actually took. "I owe you about $30 million, David," he wrote in the memoir. The Big Bang Theory cast ran the same play during their own negotiations. It worked there too. One cast meeting changed the math of ensemble television for a generation. Number 3. The man who doesn't remember 3 seasons. Matthew Perry once told a radio interviewer he doesn't remember filming 3 seasons of Friends. "A little bit of the time," he said. "I was a little out of it, yeah. That is one way to put it." Perry was 24 when he was cast. He'd already been drinking for years. Then in 1996, filming Fool's Rush in near Las Vegas, on Lake Mead during a production break, he had a jet ski accident. The painkiller prescription that followed was the start of what became a years-long dependency running alongside one of the most watched television runs in history. In his 2022 memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, Perry laid out the full extent of it. 55 pills a day at the worst point, visiting open houses on Sundays, going through strangers' medicine cabinets looking for anything he could find, weight down to 128 pounds. He also told readers how to read the footage. "When I'm carrying weight, it's alcohol," he wrote. "When I'm skinny, it's pills. When I have a goatee, it's a lot of pills." He said he was never impaired on set. His castmates stayed patient. The show, he told People magazine, was part of what kept him going. Showing up mattered, being needed mattered, having somewhere to be during years when he was barely holding on. A private collapse running alongside 30 million viewers every Thursday night. He talked about it clearly, specifically, without asking for anything. He died on October 28, 2023. He was 54. Number 2. The show that never actually ended. Friends aired its finale on May 6, 2004. 52.5 million viewers. NBC charged $2 million per 30-second spot, the highest rate in sitcom history at that point. The cast each made $1 million for that last episode. Then it was done. Except it wasn't. Warner Brothers had sold Friends into syndication in 1998, during season 4, while it was still producing new episodes, at $4 million per episode for broadcast rights. Cable deals followed. In 2014, Netflix paid $120 million for a 4-year exclusive streaming deal. When that deal expired and fans briefly panicked at a leaving January 1st notice on the platform, Netflix paid $100 million for a single additional year, more than 3 times the annual rate they'd been paying. The show moved to HBO Max. The deals kept coming. Today, Friends generates approximately $1 billion a year for Warner Brothers. In 2000, the cast had negotiated something actors almost never receive: back-end points, 2% of all syndication income, a deal historically offered only to creators and producers. Each of the 6 currently earns around $20 million a year from a show that stopped filming over 2 decades ago. Start to finish. $22,500 per episode each in 1994. $1 million per episode at the end. $20 million a year now, without making another frame. The show ended. The money never did. Number 1. Ross and Rachel were never the plan. Here is the thing nobody mentions when they talk about the greatest love story Friends ever told. Ross and Rachel was not the original idea. When Marta Kauffman and David Crane first pitched the show, before the pilot was written, when it was still a concept about 6 people in New York, the central romance they had in mind was Joey and Monica. As Crane explained years later, those 2 characters had the most obvious heat between them. Monica and Joey were going to be the will they won't they. Ross and Rachel emerged only while they were actually writing the pilot script. So, the relationship that generated 10 seasons of tension, Rachel leaving her fiancé at the altar and walking into Monica's apartment in a wedding dress, the break, the airport, the finale. None of that existed when the show was pitched. The entire emotional spine of Friends was discovered during the writing of the very first episode, and the casting was a near miss in every direction. The network pushed back on Schwimmer early on, wanting a different actor for Ross. Kaufman and Crane held firm. Courtney Cox was originally brought in to read for Rachel. She pushed to play Monica instead. Ellen DeGeneres was in consideration for Phoebe before the producers landed on Kudrow. Every element that feels inevitable, the central couple, the casting, the title, the setting, was a near miss, a rewrite, or something the creators discovered by accident or defended against the network. Ross and Rachel almost never existed. The couch almost got rejected. The hand clap was a mistake. The name took 4 tries. And somehow, all of it added up to $1 billion a year, 30 years later, on a couch they found in a basement. And there you have it. 15 facts about Friends, a show that started life as Insomnia Cafe, survived 4 title changes, a 7th character named after a children's book, NBC's attempt to turn it into a diner show, and a lead actress who was legally replaceable while the first episodes were already airing. Which facts surprised you most? Schwimmer giving away $30 million, Perry and the goatee, the quantum physics paper sent by fax? Let us know in the comments below. And hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Until next time.